Embrace the chill of spine-tingling tales. Venture into the unknown, where every corner hides a mystery, every shadow a threat. Welcome to a world where fear is the only certainty. Dare you delve into the depths of horror stories? The Forbidden Archives. In the small, seemingly peaceful town of Eldridge, there was an old, abandoned library that stood at the end of a narrow street, shrouded in an aura of mystery and fear. Rumors had spread among the townsfolk about the library's past. Stories of missing people, strange noises, and an overwhelming sense of dread that loomed over anyone who dared to venture near it. The library had once been the pride of Eldridge, boasting an extensive collection of rare and ancient books. However, as years passed, it became less frequented, with patrons speaking of an inexplicable chill that pervaded its halls and the unnerving feeling of being watched. One fateful night, a group of teenagers, driven by curiosity and the thrill of adventure, decided to explore the library. As they entered, the heavy wooden door shut behind them, with a resounding thud engulfing them in darkness. Their flashlights flickered to life, casting long, sinister shadows against the dust-covered books and cobweb-laden shelves. As they delved deeper into the library, they stumbled upon a hidden section in the back. The books here were different, ancient tomes bound in strange materials, their pages filled with cryptic symbols and languages long forgotten. One book in particular caught their attention. It was bound in what appeared to be human skin, its cover adorned with unsettling, intricate patterns. Overwhelmed by a mix of fear and fascination, one of the teenagers, Sarah, began to read aloud from the book. The words twisted and turned in the air, resonating with a power that seemed to warp the very fabric of reality around them. The library began to change, its walls stretching and contorting, as if alive. Suddenly, they heard a whisper, soft yet piercing, that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The whisper grew into a chorus of voices, speaking in a language they couldn't understand, yet the message was clear. They were not welcome here. As they tried to flee, they found that the library had become a labyrinth, its layout shifting and changing, trapping them within its walls. The air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to close in around them, as if it were alive, feeding on their fear. They soon realized they were not alone. Figures lurked in the shadows, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. These were the souls of those who had vanished in the library, trapped in an endless cycle of torment, their whispers a constant reminder of their fate. The teenagers, driven by primal fear, fought to find a way out, each turn in the maze bringing new horrors. They could feel the malevolent presence of the library bearing down on them, a force that defied understanding, its very existence an affront to the natural order. In the end, only Sarah emerged from the library, her eyes wide with terror, her mind forever scarred by the horrors she had witnessed. The library remained, a silent sentinel at the end of the street, its secrets hidden within its walls, waiting for the next unwary soul to uncover its dark past. And in the town of Eldridge, the whispers continued, a chilling reminder that some places are better left unexplored, and some truths are better left unknown. The broadcast. In the remote village of Greyhaven, nestled amidst dense forests and forgotten by time, there existed a peculiar tradition. Every year, as autumn's chill set in, the villagers would gather to observe a ritual known only as the viewing. This mysterious event was the subject of many rumors, with outsiders speculating about its true nature, but the villagers kept its secrets closely guarded, speaking of it only in hushed tones and with visible trepidation. The viewing centered around an ancient, decrepit television set placed at the heart of the village square. This television, unlike any other, was said to display images not of this world, but of realms beyond human comprehension. As the night of the viewing approached, a palpable sense of dread enveloped Greyhaven. The villagers, young and old, gathered around the television set as the village elder, a gaunt figure with eyes clouded by age, prepared to initiate the ritual. With a trembling hand, he turned the dial, and the television flickered to life, its static-filled screen casting an eerie glow in the darkness. The images that appeared were abstract and disturbing, shifting and pulsing in ways that defied logic. They depicted landscapes that seemed both familiar and alien, where the laws of physics were twisted and broken. Skies bled into oceans, mountains breathed, and forests whispered secrets in a language no human could understand. As the villagers watched, entranced and horrified, they began to experience a profound existential terror. The images on the screen seemed to reflect their deepest fears and anxieties, tapping into the very essence of their beings. It was as if the television was showing them a glimpse of a universe where humanity was insignificant, a mere speck in an indifferent and chaotic cosmos. Whispers spread among the villagers that the television was a portal, a window into alternate realities where their doppelgangers lived lives of torment and despair. They saw themselves in these other worlds, trapped in endless cycles of suffering, unable to escape their fate. The more they watched, the more the boundaries between their reality and the ones on the screen began to blur. Time seemed to warp and stretch, with hours feeling like days, and days like mere moments. The villagers started to lose their grip on what was real and what was a product of the television's malevolent influence. As the ritual reached its climax, the elder spoke a series of incantations, his voice barely audible over the static. The images on the screen grew more intense, more personal, showing the villagers their worst nightmares realized. Loved ones lost, futures destroyed, and hopes shattered. In the aftermath of the viewing, the villagers were left changed. They walked through their lives with a newfound awareness of the fragility and randomness of existence. The television, now silent and dormant, remained in the village square, a constant reminder of the night when they stared into the abyss, and the abyss stared back. The ritual of the viewing continued, year after year, with each generation inheriting the burden of knowledge it imparted. And as the world outside Greyhaven moved on, oblivious to the village's plight, the television waited, its screen dark and silent, for the next opportunity to reveal the horrors that lie beyond the veil of reality. The Labyrinth. In the quaint, seemingly idyllic town of Wintershade, a curious phenomenon began to occur. Time, the ever-constant force, started to behave erratically. Clocks would run backwards, days would repeat, and hours would stretch into infinity. The townspeople initially dismissed these oddities as mere quirks, but soon the reality of their situation became terrifyingly clear. At the heart of Wintershade stood an ancient clock tower, long since abandoned and forgotten. It was a relic of a bygone era, its mechanisms rusted and its chimes silent. But as the disturbances in time grew more frequent and severe, the townspeople began to notice a faint glow emanating from the clock tower each night. Eleanor, a young historian with a keen interest in Wintershade's past, became obsessed with unraveling the mystery of the clock tower. She delved into old archives and uncovered a forgotten legend about a clockmaker who, centuries ago, had sought to master time itself. He had built the clock tower, embedding within it a mechanism that could manipulate the flow of time. Armed with this knowledge, Eleanor ventured into the clock tower, determined to find a way to restore the natural order of time. Inside, she found a realm unbound by the rules of time and space. The clock's gears and cogs formed a labyrinthine network, pulsing with an eerie, unnatural energy. As she navigated the labyrinth, Eleanor began to experience distortions in her perception of time. She would find herself reliving moments from her past, then suddenly thrust forward into possible futures. In these temporal echoes, she saw Wintershade twisted into nightmarish versions of itself, its people trapped in endless loops of fear and despair. The deeper Eleanor ventured, the more she realized that the clock tower was not merely a machine, but a sentient entity, its consciousness intertwined with the fabric of time. It was a guardian of temporal order, but it had become corrupted, its purpose twisted into something malevolent. The clock tower, feeding on the temporal energy of the townspeople, had created a paradoxical existence where time was both a prison and a predator. It hunted Eleanor through the labyrinth, warping reality around her, trying to assimilate her into its eternal cycle. In a desperate bid to escape, Eleanor discovered the heart of the clock tower, a massive pendulum oscillating in a rhythm that dictated the flow of time in Wintershade. She realized that to restore time, she needed to stop the pendulum. As she reached for the pendulum, time fractured around her, creating a maelstrom of past, present, and future. Visions of Wintershade's history and potential futures flashed before her eyes, each more disturbing and surreal than the last. With a final determined effort, Eleanor managed to halt the pendulum. The clock tower shuddered, its structure collapsing as the flow of time snapped back to its natural course. Eleanor emerged from the ruins of the clock tower, finding Wintershade restored to normalcy. But the experience had left an indelible mark on her. She knew that time was not a constant, but a fragile tapestry, vulnerable to the whims of those who dared to manipulate it. The townspeople of Wintershade moved on, but Eleanor could never shake the feeling of being watched by the remnants of the clock tower, a silent reminder that time was always lurking, waiting for the moment to unravel once again.